Let's talk about AS 4801, the Occupational Health and Safety Management System specification. It's the international standard that sets up all the requirements of how to manage occupational health and safety and your occupational health and safety risks and threats in your organisation. Welcome to the Best Practice website. I'm Kobe Simmet, I'm the CEO here. Have a browse around. There's a ton of great information on occupational health and safety management. There's also lots of great videos over on our YouTube channel and some great courses up above in our training academy. But let's talk about AS 4801 and what it's all about. When we're setting up an occupational health and safety management system, sometimes we've observed our clients find it really difficult to know where it starts and finishes. OH&S in an organisation can get very overwhelming. We can get very nervous about the risks and threats that we're exposed to, and there's lots of compliance requirements, particularly in countries like Australia and some of the first world countries where there are very, very strong regulations. But more importantly, in other countries which have got evolving health and safety rules and regulations, we're not quite sure how far to go. So setting up a system that follows either AS 4801 right here that we're talking about on this web page, but equally if you look at OHS 18001 or the new emerging draft standard ISO 45001, they're all a very similar framework. So if you're setting up any of the safety management system standards, you will find as you read each of those standards that the headings, the format, and the language and the terminology is very, very similar. So you could often find that you might comply with all three standards. Let's talk about what's involved. It's about setting your OH&S policy, defining for your stakeholders in your public policy what your OH&S commitments will be. The standard's looking for three commitments. It's looking for minimising and avoiding injuries and illness, it's looking for continual improvement, and it's looking for compliance with legal and other requirements. So when you're putting that policy together and you're setting up the framework for OH&S in your organisation, you're looking to have those three commitments documented and obviously communicated. The next stage, if you like, falls through the rest of the standard or flows through the rest of the standard, where we look at strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats in OH&S, or a SWOT analysis. We build out a risk register. So your OHS or your health and safety risks put into a risk register. Then we start to form a plan. After we've identified those risks and that SWOT analysis, we can inform ourselves on what the plan should be, and we talk about things like who, what, when, where and how will we manage those OH&S issues that we've identified in our risk assessment phase. Now the rest is really simple. It's important to put that plan into action, to identify the things that people are going to do across the organisation on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to manage health and safety, to avoid those nasty injuries and illnesses that could eventuate. The next phase, obviously, as we move through the continual improvement cycle, is to set up your dashboard. What are the numbers from an OH&S perspective that you're going to manage? Where I think it would be important to look at things like the numbers of injuries, the numbers of illnesses, the numbers of hazards reported. If you've got lost time, if you've got people taking time off work, maybe a lost time injury frequency rate could be important. But it's important to get a clear picture of your organisation's health and safety performance, and you do that with a dashboard. The rest is pretty straightforward and is generic and follows the other management system standards. And those things include management review, internal audits, and setting up your management system, much the same as a quality system or an environment system, where we've got our strategic planning process, we've got our doing part or our controls, we've got our dashboard where we do our monitoring and measurement, we do our internal audits, and we do our management review. And that informs the cycle of continual improvement. What we're ultimately looking for here at Best Practice is you setting up a self-assessment system, setting up a management system so that you can manage your health and safety. And then if we conduct an assessment for you, we can give you some recognition that you've got a management system in place. It's quite exciting. We'll see you soon.